Shamu, we're still slowly warming up, so I've got time to address this. You've got a lot of thoughts about this. First of all, Sumerian Babylonia is older than Greeks. Yes, we're going to get into language, one of my favorite things. We're going to get into that, and then we'll address the second half of this. So, like I said in the video that this was a comment to Mesopotamia polytheism, Mesopotamian neo-polytheism, has the problem of we don't even have our own term. This is a term foisted upon ourselves. So, and you mentioned a little bit about the language, so we're going to talk about the language here. So Sumerians, they called themselves a specific term. The Sumerians themselves had a term for themselves, and it was Sagiga, or Sagiga, which is understood, translated as I mentioned in the video, the black-headed people. Now that was the Sumerians. The Akkadian-speaking people had in Akkadian their own terms that were tied to their land, their city, their kingdom. So you would see Akkadu for the Akkadians, the Ashurayu, or the Ashurayu, for Assyrians, or Babalayu as Babylonians. Those were the terms they used. Mesopotamia is a Greek form that was put on later because, yes, Sumeria, Babylonia, Akkadia, these were all before. So Mesopotamia and Mesopotamian by extension is an exonym. It's not something the people called themselves. It's something that was kind of foisted on them. It comes from mesos, meaning middle, and potamos, meaning river. So Mesopotamia literally was the land between the rivers. We now say it as Mesopotamia. The rivers were meant to be, the Tigris and Euphrates. Its usage appears in Greek by the Hellenistic period. I have never been able to narrow down exactly when this starts. I do know that it was used in the Greek Septuagint as a rendering of a Hebrew-Aramaic term, Naharim, which shows that this word was already being used in Greek by the time of the Septuagint. One of the earliest sources I have found as an attestation for the term Mesopotamia is Arrian's Anabasis of Alexander, though Arrian was writing much later and drawing on earlier material from the age of Alexander, so Arrian is a surviving witness. Even the land, so Mesopotamians is not what they called themselves. It's also not what they called the land. We had different terms for the different groups here. In Sumeria, we called the southern part of it Ki-Engir. This would be a native term behind what we call Sumer now. The northern part would have been the Akkadian-speaking region of Akkad or Akkad, where we get Akkadian. Importantly, there also was a larger term that combined these expressions in royal inscriptions of Sumer and Akkad. In Sumerian, this would be Ki-Engir Ki-Uru, or Ki-Uri. Ki-Engi Ki-Uri. In Akkadian, this would be Mat Sumeri U Akkadi. Matu meaning land, and so rulers might speak of Mat Ashur, the land of Ashur or Assyria, Mat Akkadi, the land of Akkad, Mat Babili, or the land of Babylon, or Babylonia proper. So these terms don't come in. So when I'm saying that one of the things that Mesopotamian polytheism has to fight and contend with is the fact that we don't even have our own terms. We don't have Sadiki. We don't have Ki-Engiri. We are foisted upon the exonym Mesopotamia. As far as the other part of the thing that, the reason why we don't have information is because it was the last of the erotic goddess traditions before Christianity. It historically does not track. I mean, we don't have information for Multiple reasons. One, as one of the oldest civilizations, it was the backyard of many people. You had the Sumerians, went into the Akkadians, went into the Assyrians, went into the Babylonians. And while that's going on, there's the Elamites, the Hittites, the Hurrians, the Levant, all of this. Eventually, Achaemenid Persians with Darius and Cyrus and Xerxes coming in, making Babylon its backyard. You've got Greece that comes in, drives them out. Macedonians, Alexander the Great. We have all these people that come in, and it sits as a backyard. We have this continuing thing where this specific plot of land, still to this day, is something that is seen as to be conquered. In fact, Mesopotamia, the area of it, would have been in Iraq and Iran. That's all we'll say on that, so you can see where the conquering comes from. So one of the big reasons is because it's constantly a conquered place. Another reason is because a lot of this does need to be archaeologically excavated, and until Agatha Christie and Lawrence of Arabia stumbled upon Ur at the end of World War I, which is a wild sentence, and I will do a deep dive on this at some point. We had no evidence of them. We had writings attesting to their existence, but we had no archaeological record for them whatsoever. Which means, prior to the 1920s and 1930s, there was no study into Mesopotamia. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to get this information. It's not been obscured by anything. It's been to the passage of time and conquest and plunder. Additionally, with a lot of it being on clay tablets, those things can be fractured, those things can be broke, We find a lot of our information in garbage refuse piles called tells or tolls. And so, it's a slow working process. As far as them being one of the last erotic goddess places, that's ignoring a large part of history. I mean, you have Cybele, the great Magna Mater. You have many things being done up in the Eurasian steppes that were heavily erotic. You've got Aphrodite herself with the epithet Aphrodite Calypfiguris, Aphrodite of the beautiful buttocks. You have all these different, you have Dionysic mystery cults, the Dionysian mysteries that are tied into fertility, the Eleusinian mysteries tied into fertility. You have divine ecstasy in the Beguines. There are hundreds of them that continued well after Mesopotamia. You got to think, it is 2026. We are roughly, right now, the same distance that the birth of Christ was. Like, we are as far away from the birth of Christ as the birth of Christ was to the fall of the Babylonian Empire. That's the scale and why we don't have information. There's no grand conspiracy by the Christians. There's no, they were trying to quiet the fertility, this and that. No. There is a passage of time that has occurred. It is a sad fact that time eventually wears off all things. Ozymandias, for you poem lovers. That's it. I don't have any more time for this video. I could say a million more things. Perhaps we'll make more. It's almost at a bearable temperature to go outside. So, I'll leave you all with that, and shalom.